Some of you have been here a while now and might know that I'm a pretty lazy man. But how on earth can you have a healthy diet that's also easy and convenient? Well, if you live in the US, it is your lucky day because I've got the perfect solution for you. Factor offers you the chance to get fresh, ready-made meals delivered directly to your doorstep. They're never frozen, they're full of high quality ingredients and packed with nutritional value too. It even offers meals for those following different lifestyles and diets. So what are you waiting for? Go and click that lovely link at the top of the description now. You'll get plenty of money off your first order with Factor and some off the few after too. You'd be a fool to miss out on an opportunity like that. Well, here we go then. Just 2 weekends to go in a championship season, and with 2 games left to play, there is an awful lot left to play for. The top 2 places may have been decided, but remarkably, anyone from 5th to 12th could still make the playoffs this year, and at the bottom, it is an absolute mess from 18th all the way down to the bottom. So at this stage, it's basically an impossible job to predict. I'm going to try and do that. I will note one thing beforehand though, this is being recorded before Rotherham v Cardiff on Thursday night, the one that was rearranged due to the weather, so no real impact from that game in my prediction. However, I'll presume that my prediction was right, which is a very bold thing to do. Before we go and have a look at this full weekend fixture list though, which ends on the 1st of May for the bank holiday Monday, we are going to have a quick recap of what happened last weekend because, well, the comment section has had a remarkable week. Me not so much, 4 points, 1 perfect score as you can see on screen now. Probably the less said about that the better, but again, very happy to be wrong with my Luton prediction. Playoff secured and 3rd place all but there with it. But look at the comments, it's very good. Gordon, 8 points, 2 perfect scores, both for the Championship's favourite scoreline. You have been listening carefully this year and you've been rewarded for picking that scoreline a couple of times. However, we all need to bout the W and G fam because 5 perfect scores at this stage of the season, a remarkable effort. We cannot say anything else other than you win the match day and you have produced the most perfect scores of the season, just eclipsing Tony's 4, which he produced a few weeks back. So well done to you, good luck backing it up this weekend as we move on to match day 45. It's spread over 4 days and we start with a big one on Friday night at the bottom. It is Blackpool versus Millwall. Now, this is huge at both ends of the table because Blackpool, of course, just kept themselves in that mix with a very big win last week against Birmingham. A great 1-0 on the road, a proper classic, Pervader getting a goal. And you know what? The best away wins a 1-0 win. It always gets said. It's an even game. It could have gone either way. But Blackpool did create a couple of good chances and took one of them. For Millwall, they are hitting bad form at the wrong time of the season. They've dropped out the playoffs for the first time in a long time on goal difference. And with 2 games to go, that is not what they want. And given the run of fixtures they've had, defeats against Hull, Birmingham and Wigan, all bottom half sides. And Wigan, of course, another one of Blackpool's relegation rivals. So maybe we'll be sensing some deja vu. Millwall were not great in that game, to be honest. But it's been a common problem in recent weeks, which is not taking chances. I'm not sure in this game they could blame that quite so much because they only created 3 shots on target. Wigan did have a couple of very good ones, and Millwall, they've just not been at their best for recent weeks. That Preston win, the only one in their last 6. They're not scoring many goals, only 3 in their last 6 games as well. And Blackpool have picked up a couple of big 1-0 wins. Of course, one of Rotherham and Cardiff might not be catchable. In truth, they probably both won't be because of the goal difference. But Huddersfield are there and there's an opportunity. So if Blackpool win, they're still in it. I'm going to back them to win it because at the moment, they're in a better form of the 2 in recent weeks. I'm going to go for the same scoreline again. It's risky, but I'm going for 1-0 Blackpool under the lights. On to Saturday at 3 PM and we start with 2 teams that have nothing to play for very different reasons. It is mid-table Bristol City against champions Burnley. Burnley secured it in style, didn't they? A 1-0 ugly win away at their Lancashire rivals Blackburn. They enjoyed that one afterwards on the pitch. Scored with their only shot on target. Blackburn deserved something out the game, but Burnley were brilliant. They got the 1-0 away win. And that is the best result you can have. For Bristol City, a 2-1 win against Rotherham last weekend. A good result in the last minute, and given they've got nothing to play for, they could have been on the beach, but they managed to do all right. Of course, it might well be the last home game for Alex Scott. He is very much being talked about as a man that might be on his way out. Lots of Premier League suitors for him. And it is a quite tricky one to predict because Burnley's performances against Blackburn and against QPR really not as good as recent weeks. And in fact, in their last 4, they haven't been brilliant. whereas Bristol City just getting back to winning ways after some dodgy performances, but they've been playing good sides in those games they've not won. I'm going to go, I think, for a draw in this one. I don't think Burnley are going to be at their best, and I'm not sure we're going to blame them for it, but I'm going to sit on the fence. I'm going to go for a high-scoring game. I'm going to go for 2 goals apiece between City and Burnley. On to a very big game in the playoff race, as Coventry City, currently in 5th, host Birmingham City, who have nothing to play for. Birmingham lost 1-0 at home to Blackpool. In the end, it was a pretty even game. They could have got something out of it, but Birmingham have done their job this year, and most people, including me, had them in a relegation dogfight, so fair play to them for not being near it. For Coventry, well, they've played this fixture plenty of times at Birmingham City's ground as the home team. Now they're back in Coventry, they're back in the playoffs, and I tell you what, it's the perfect time to hit an unbeaten run, isn't it? They've won 5 unbeaten since that hammering at home to Stoke, and they got a good 2-1 win at home to Reading. We're not expecting glorious performances at this point, but I think the best thing out of that game was the equaliser went in from Reading. They went straight up the other end and scored, and that was really important for the momentum of the game. They were the better team, and they did deserve to win it. And you know what? If they win this game, there's every chance they'll be in the playoffs, because so many teams are dropping points that having that 4-point lead with 2 to go might be enough. So I'm going to go for Coventry to win this game. I can see it being a very cagey game. I think we might get a 0-0 or a 1-0 till very late on. And then maybe Coventry to nick a late winner. Was their speciality back last year, and they've stayed unbeaten in recent weeks. Given the fact that Birmingham only ever win or lose by a goal at the moment as well, I'm going to go for a tight game. I'm going to go for a tense game. And for Coventry to win by the same score as last week, 2-1. Let's move on to another side who are hitting form at the perfect time. But is it just too late? Swansea City go to Hull City, and the visitors are just 3 points off the playoffs. It's remarkable. They were in disarray a couple of months ago. They missed out on that signing of Carlin Grant. They'd won 2 in 14 or 15. It was a ridiculous run. And now look at them. No pressure on them. Suddenly, they've won 5 in 6. They've kept 4 clean sheets in that time as well. A brilliant performance in a 3-0 win at Norwich. Blew them away, and they were 2 up before the red card. So you can't tell me that was the crucial factor. Of course, it made the second half easier. Of course, it meant that a defensive collapse was less likely. You've got to give Russell Martin credit because he's regrouped them well. Having said that, they're still only in 12th place. For Hull, a big 1-0 win against Watford last weekend, albeit they're probably one of the easier sides to play in the division at the moment. And you've got to also be fair. Scored the penalty, their only shot on target. Watford had more of the game apart from that. But Hull have done their job. I'm really impressed with what Rossini has done, and I hope he gets given the summer to bring in his own players and revolutionise the style of play. I'm not sure whether he will. We'll wait and see on that front. My problem for this game is that there's now pressure on Swansea. They were sort of in great form because there was no pressure, there was nothing to play for, and because of their form, there now is something to play for. Can they possibly sneak in the playoffs? I'm not so sure. I think they'll keep their unbeaten run going. I don't think they'll win this fixture. I'm going for my first Championship's favourite scoreline of the weekend. I'm going for 1-1 at the MKM. Did somebody order a relegation 6-pointer? Because that's what we've got next. It is Reading versus Wigan Athletic. Wigan, better away from home than they are at home, or certainly were earlier in the season. Won their last away game 1-0 at Stoke, then a big win at home to Millwall last week just keeps them in it. Of course, it's not in their hands and they are reliant on other teams, but they're doing their best. And I just hope that the points deduction doesn't get them relegated, because that would be gutting for Sean Maloney. Ultimately, their Colo Touré experiment has probably cost them. But for Reading, the out-of-form team in the Championship, and although they've drawn a few games recently, a 2-1 defeat at Coventry may well seal their fate. They're relying on Huddersfield not to pick up results. They've got to get a win somewhere, and it's not going to be away from home, is it? So this last home game for Reading is crucial. They've got one of the better home records in the Championship, and they picked up 2 draws in their last 2 home games against very good teams, 2 of the top 3 in fact. So can they back that up this time? Wigan in great form. Oh, it's a hard one to predict. Reading are going to be direct. Wigan are going to try and hit them on the counter in behind. Neither team really suits the way the other one plays, and I wonder if they cancel each other out. Of course, a point for Reading keeps them in it, but it's probably a missed opportunity. I just wonder with this game, because both have basically got to win, are we going to get a bonkers ending? I'm going to go for a big score in this one. I think it might be 1-1, it might be cagey for the first hour. Then I'm going nuts. I'm going for a 3-2 win, but who to? Initially, I wrote down Reading. I'm going to stick with Reading, you know. I think they're going to win this game by 3-2, end that awful run, get themselves possibly out the relegation zone, and give themselves a chance into the final day. Reading 3, Wigan 2, purely due to the circumstance they'll both be in. Next up, it is a huge congratulations to Sheffield United, who host Preston North End on Saturday afternoon. Preston drew 1-1 in a Lancashire derby last weekend. They are in 10th place, still only 2 points off the playoffs, and if they can get anything out of this game, it's a bonus. They will be thrilled that Sheffield United secure promotion with a big result on Wednesday against West Brom. A 2-0 win, a controlled and dominant performance after that run around in the FA Cup semi-final on Saturday. And if you put it into perspective, it's been a wonderful season. Paul Heckingbottom, and we don't get many of them that wrong, Paul Heckingbottom is the one manager special where he's just thrown egg on mine and Craig's face because he has made us look silly. Fair play to him, he's done a brilliant job, and Sheffield United are promoted to the Premier League. I'm interested to see how this one goes though, because it was such a big effort against City for the most part. It was a massive effort on Wednesday to get the job done, and I'm sure there would have been a party in a late night. And with Preston on the horizon, it's such a big game for them. I've really got a feeling that they could roll Sheffield United over. I know at Bramall Lane they've got a great record, but Preston are one of the best away sides in the league. And if they're going to get into the playoffs, they've probably got to win their away game because they're much poorer at home. I'm going to go for Preston to win, and I'm going to go for Preston to win big because I just think for Sheffield United, it will be the traditional on the beach now. I'm going for 3-1 to Preston, a big win at Bramall Lane, and maybe one that puts them in the playoff mix. Well, a week ago, this might have been another huge game at the bottom. It is Stoke City versus Queen's Park Rangers. Who on earth thought QPR were going to win at Burnley when all Burnley had to do was win to get the title? Of course, they've wrapped that up since, but for QPR, it's probably just about secured their survival. A wonderful win, a great moment for Gareth Ainsworth, who you just felt needed to get them over the line into the summer. And we're going to see big change at QPR, and I think we'll see a much better team next year. For Stoke, I just don't know what to say. They were the form team in the league when they got safe at first. Now they're the worst form team in the league. 5 games in a row, bar West Brom playing opposition in the bottom 10, and they've just not been able to pick up wins. They've scored 3 goals in those 5 matches after being free-flowing the weeks prior. And I just don't know what Alex Neil does in the summer. Stoke have become the hardest team to predict in this league, and they need to find some consistency. So I wonder if Alex Neil will have an overhaul as well. Could be 2 clubs with very busy summers in a transfer window. But for this game, QPR have got confidence. They might need 1 more point to be safe. You know what? I think they get it here. I've got no way of splitting them. I think there will be goals in this one because QPR are so poor at the back. I'm presuming that Watford 1-0 win will be their only clean sheet in months. So I'm going to go for Stoke to get a couple of goals in this one. I'm going to go for the second time today for 2 goals apiece. The last 3 p.m. kickoff on Saturday is another big one in the playoff race, but only for one team now. It is Sunderland versus Watford. Watford complete back-to-back defeats against Cardiff and Hull City, and that leaves them in the bottom half and unable to make the playoffs. I don't feel it's right for me to make the assessment as a Luton fan, but so much is wrong there at the moment, and obviously a lot of Watford fans have vented their frustrations, rightly so. For Sunderland, in 6th place at the minute, they've done so well considering they've not got their goal scorers, losing Ellis Sims at the end of January, not having Ross Stewart for the majority of the season. But Joe Gelhardt is starting to find his form, and when Dennis Serkin, the defender, is popping up with a brace, maybe a Noah playoff place is on the horizon. A very good performance at West Brom last Sunday on the telly, a really good effort in recent weeks from them. Of course, it's a case of what might have been if they hadn't let in that last-minute goal against Hull, but overall, a really good effort from them. Their first season in the Championship, remember. And when you look at where Wigan and Rotherham are fighting, you see just how well Sunderland have done, albeit with a bigger fan base and a bigger budget. For this game, you have to predict a Sunderland win. Of course, Watford could frustrate them. They could sit a bit deeper against them. But I just don't think they've got the discipline, the Hornets, at the minute. So I'm going to go for Sunderland to win the game, and I'll go for the same score as their last 2 victories. 2-1 at the Stadium of Light, and Sunderland pushing for the playoffs. Another massive game in that top 6 race is the late kickoff on Saturday afternoon. It is West Bromwich Albion versus Norwich City. 9th v 11th, 2 and 3 points off the playoffs respectively. West Brom, of course, a very disappointing week. Defeat at Sheffield United, but more worryingly last Sunday. Crushing defeat at home to Sunderland in that race for the playoffs. I mean, if you look at how close the playoffs are now, if they'd won that game, they would have been in opposite positions. That's the difference we're talking about. Norwich, of course, a good side away from home, but at home they were stung by Swansea last time out. And it's 2 heavy defeats in 3 games now. 9 goals conceded in those, a draw away at QPR in the middle of the 2 defeats. It's not been a good spell for them, 4 without a win, and both sides have just sort of dropped off at the wrong time. Another 2 that probably need rebuilds in the summer. Going to see one of the busiest championship transfer windows ever. Will one of these sides sneak in though? That's the big question. One of them's going to get a lot closer, aren't they? Or do they cancel each other out? West Brom at home this season have been pretty good. Norwich have been pretty good on the road. You know what I'm going for, don't you? It's the Championship's favourite scoreline, 1-1. On to Sunday, we've got an early kick-off, and this time it's a huge one at the bottom. But will it be for both sides? We don't know. It is Cardiff City versus Huddersfield Town. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, we have not seen the outcome of Rotherham v Cardiff yet, so it could be that Cardiff are well clear on 49 points. But the one thing we do know for sure is it's a massive game for Huddersfield. They've dropped to 21st again, just 1 point clear. They had that big bounce under Neil Warnock, but just 2 points in those last 3 games now. You wonder how much it's going to cost them letting in those 2 against Blackburn. And of course, although they went 1 down to Sunderland, they did do well to fight back. They've got a chance. They've got big games coming up this week. And the final day of the season, you just know is going to be blockbuster, don't you? Huddersfield v Reading quite possibly decides the last relegation spot. And I do wonder if Neil Warnock is just thinking, let's get to that game. Because if we do, we're probably favourites to do it. If they get anything in the meantime, though, it's a bonus. And given what I've predicted for Reading, they're going to need something here. Cardiff, the season is sort of petering out, but they need that one more result. And I wonder if they'll get it at Rotherham on Thursday. They've been in decent form the last 2 games. They beat Watford, they drew with Stoke. They've not been convincing in all of those matches, but they've been far better under Sabri Lamucci. They've been ruthless in front of goal at times. I think both sides are going to score in this game. Again, I'm not sure which way to go for it. If Cardiff are safe, it becomes a very different match. But for now, I'm going to go for the host to edge it by 2-1 against Huddersfield. I just feel it's going to go to the final day for them. Of course, we will be back with a mini midweek prediction for Huddersfield. They've got a game on Thursday night, but for now, let's move on to the final 2 games on Bank Holiday Monday. The lunchtime kickoff is a big one at both ends. It is Rotherham United versus Middlesbrough. Again, similar to Cardiff, Rotherham could be safe if their result goes well on Thursday. Middlesbrough, secured in the playoffs now, it's just whether it's 3rd or 4th. A very disappointing defeat away at Luton. A very good performance regardless though. And it was quite an interesting one because both sides were obviously making changes from the start and during the game with the playoffs in mind. For Luton, look, I've got to be fair here. I did it a few weeks ago when Amad Diallo got a very soft penalty for Sunderland against Luton. I'm going to do the same for Carlton Morris because for me, it's a dive and I'll be completely honest with you. I know there's very slight contact, the same as that Diallo one. But the player knows what they're doing, and it's not a penalty for 99% of us. So, not the best circumstances to win a game, but both sides have had brilliant seasons. And you know what? First half was very cagey. Both sides were a little bit fearful of getting caught by the other. That 25 minutes at the start of the second half, really good performance from both sides. And really nice to see a game where neither side's slowing it down, neither's time wasting. It was just full-blooded, full pace, and that's what we want to see. As a neutral, I'm sure it was good to watch. For Rotherham, disappointment at Bristol City, 4 without a win now, albeit the other 3 were against sides chasing the playoffs or the champions in Burnley. So I don't think we can judge them too much on that. The Cardiff game is going to be the crucial one. If that's what I predicted and Cardiff do win it, this game is going to be important. If Middlesbrough rest players, then great news for Rotherham. We've seen them turn up with the odd brilliant home performance against a top team. I'm not sure they've got enough to stop Borough. I think Middlesbrough will have too much. So I'm going to go for the classic Middlesbrough score. 3-1. That's what they always win by under Michael Carrick. That's what I'm going to go for at the New York Stadium. Then we've got the final game, which is a big one in a chase for the playoffs again on Monday evening. It is Blackburn Rovers versus Luton Town. Luton won on Monday night, as we mentioned, against Borough. The controversial penalty. Again, I'm not going to go over it like I just did a minute ago. But I'm not a big fan of it. And I'll be honest with that as a Luton fan. For Blackburn, oh, it was the crushing midweek, wasn't it? Disappointment against Burnley. They played well, but gave up their only shot on target. Let Burnley, the rivals, win the league at their ground. And that, crucially, makes it another game without a win. Since that FA Cup quarter-final and the international break, it has all gone horribly wrong for Blackburn. And even if they won one of those games, they'd still be in the playoffs, as is the way with the Championship this year. They've fallen out at the wrong time again. They've done what Blackburn always do at the end of the season. The question is, will Luton do them a favour? Will they start resting key players for the playoffs? or will they go full strength and try and wrap up third? Blackburn, of course, will be hoping for the former, but even then, do they get the win? I don't know. I think you know how I'm going to finish. Luton are unbeaten in 14 games now. Blackburn have drawn 4 of their last 6, 2 of them by 1 goal apiece. So I'm going to finish with a Championship's favourite scoreline. I'm going for 1-1 at Ewood Park. And to be fair, if Blackburn win on the final day, the sides could be meeting again in a couple of weeks' time. Well, with that done, let's have a quick recap of what I've predicted for matchday 45. And I've tried to judge circumstances in games in truth. Sheffield United, after securing promotion, a big defeat for them at home to Preston, which will be crucial in the playoff race. I've also gone for a thriller between Reading and Wigan, purely because I think both will have to chase a win late on, and Reading are going to nick that by 3-2 in my opinion. Lots of Championship favourite scorelines, and to be honest, lots of draws in general. But those are just my predictions. They're probably going to be awful again. Do you agree or disagree with them? Let me know your predictions down in the comments. If you do beat my score, as always, you'll get a shout out in the next recap. Can you beat W&G fans' late run of 5 perfect scores in a match day? Give us your predictions down below and we'll find out next weekend. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, we will have one mini midweek episode with Huddersfield v Sheffield United the centre of attention. That game should be big in the race at the bottom. We'll be back with that one on Tuesday before our final predictions of the season. Probably bring it out on Friday night as the fixture list finishes on Monday. If you did enjoy this one, please do put a thumbs up on it. Subscribe for regular content from the Honest Football Podcast. All the EFL and National League playoff predictions to come, and the National League ones will be starting very soon. I hope you're looking forward to them. Let us know in the comments as well who you think is getting into the playoffs and who you think is going down with 2 games to go. We'll see how many of you are right in just about 10 days' time. Thank you very much for watching as always. Check out all the links in the eye above and the sponsor down below if you're in the US. And I'll see you back here on Tuesday for a mini midweek prediction.